Imagine a spinning top, whirling fast and steady on a table. Its motion is smooth, balanced, and almost hypnotic, spinning in place with a sense of order and control. That's just like the polar vortex when it's strong, an invisible force high above the Arctic, spinning with incredible power and stability. This massive swirl of icy air, circling far above the North Pole, acts as a protective fence. It keeps the coldest air locked up tight, far to the north, away from the rest of the world. For Germany, that usually means a predictable winter. Some cold, some snow, but nothing too wild or extreme. The weather stays within familiar boundaries, and people know what to expect. But when the top slows down, it starts to wobble and drift off course, just like a weak polar vortex losing its grip. The fence breaks down, and suddenly chunks of Arctic air can escape, surging southward with little warning. In a flash, Germany can be hit by blasts of frigid air that were supposed to stay near the pole, turning ordinary winters into something much more dramatic. This is the story of how a wobbling top in the Arctic can turn German winters upside down, bringing chaos and surprise to the season. We'll break down what the polar vortex is, why it sometimes weakens, and how that can mean anything from deep freezes to surprise warm spells, even in the same winter. Recent winters have shown just how powerful and unpredictable these changes can be, with record-breaking storms and unexpected thaws. Understanding the polar vortex isn't just for scientists. It helps everyone prepare for the unexpected, from city planner to families planning their daily routines. So, let's spin up our journey to the top of the world and discover how the Arctic spinning top shapes the winters we experience far to the south. The polar vortex isn't a storm you see outside. It's a massive, invisible whirlpool of icy air high up in the stratosphere, swirling far above our heads and stretching for thousands of kilometers. This enormous system spins relentlessly around the North Pole, circling the top of the world like a frozen crown. The spinning motion creates a powerful jet stream, a fast-moving river of wind that acts like a barrier, keeping the frigid Arctic air locked away from the milder air to the south. The vortex forms every autumn as the North Pole tilts away from the sun, plunging into months of darkness and extreme cold, setting the stage for winter's deep freeze. The colder and darker it gets, the stronger and tighter the vortex spins, locking in the chill. When the vortex is strong, it's like the refrigerator door stays firmly shut, trapping the cold in the Arctic and keeping it from spilling south. For Germany, this usually means winters are milder and wetter, with rain and drizzle instead of deep freezes, as the worst of the Arctic cold is kept at bay. The polar vortex is a normal, essential part of Earth's climate system, a silent guardian that helps regulate the planet's temperature and keeps the Arctic's chill contained. But its strength is crucial. When the vortex weakens, it's as if the refrigerator door swings open wide. That's when Germany, and much of Europe, must brace for a very different kind of winter with sudden cold snaps and heavy snow. The polar vortex isn't new or rare, it's always been there, quietly shaping our weather patterns and influencing the seasons. But when it falters or breaks apart, the effects can be dramatic and far-reaching, changing daily life in an instant. Next, let's explore what happens when the vortex starts to wobble and lose its grip. The real action begins when the Arctic spinning top loses its balance, unleashing winter's true power across Europe. A strong polar vortex is cold, compact, and spins fast, but when it weakens, it slows, warms, and stretches out of shape. This wobbling can split the vortex into smaller, wandering whirlpools of cold air. The trigger, sudden stratospheric warming, when powerful waves from below crash into the vortex, heating it up and knocking it off balance. Temperatures in the polar stratosphere can jump by tens of degrees in just days. As the vortex wobbles, the jet stream below becomes wavy, like a meandering river. These deep curves, troughs and ridges, let Arctic air plunge south and warm air surge north. The result, the refrigerator door swings wide open and blobs of freezing air escape. One might head for Siberia, another for North America, and another straight for Germany. This chain reaction starts high above, but its effects are felt on the ground. The wobbly vortex is the engine behind Europe's wildest winter weather. When it loses control, Germany can go from mild to frozen in a matter of days. That's how the Arctic comes to visit. When the polar vortex weakens, Germany can suddenly find itself in the path of an Arctic outbreak. This isn't just a minor chill, it's a dramatic shift that can transform the entire country's weather in a matter of hours. Instead of the usual damp, gray winter, the country is hit by intense, dry cold, sometimes called a beast from the east. The air feels sharper, and the landscape takes on a stark, frozen beauty that's both breathtaking and challenging. Temperatures plunge far below zero, and the cold can last for days or even weeks at a time. Homes and buildings creak under the strain, and people bundle up in layers just to step outside. The jet stream's new wavy pattern blocks milder Atlantic air, trapping Germany under a relentless flow of icy winds from Siberia. This atmospheric setup can linger, making the cold spell feel endless. Snow changes too. Rather than wet and slushy, it's fine, powdery, and piles up in deep drifts. The countryside transforms into a silent white world, with snow sparkling under the pale winter sun. This snow doesn't melt quickly. It accumulates, making travel and daily life much harder. Roads become treacherous, and public transport often grinds to a halt. These cold spells don't last all winter. They come in sudden, intense bursts, catching people by surprise and forcing everyone to adapt quickly. Germany might have a normal start to winter, then flip to deep freeze almost overnight. One day it's mild, the next, streets and parks are buried under snow. After a few weeks, the pattern can shift back just as quickly, with temperatures rising and snow melting away, only for the cold to return again. The result? A roller coaster of extremes. Deep freezes, then thaws, then cold again. This unpredictable cycle keeps everyone on their toes. It's not just cold, it's unpredictable, and it can catch everyone off guard. People rush to prepare, but the weather always seems one step ahead. The Arctic's visit is always disruptive, affecting everything from daily routines to national infrastructure. And it's happening more often, as climate patterns shift and extreme weather becomes a new normal for Germany. Recent winters show just how wild a weak polar vortex can make Germany's weather. In February 2021, a sudden stratospheric warming triggered a massive Arctic outbreak. Northern and central Germany were buried in snow and deep freeze, while the south stayed mild, a classic sign of a wavy, blocked jet stream. Cities like Göttingen and Kassel ground to a halt, highways jammed, trains cancelled, and people stranded. The country's infrastructure struggled to cope with the sudden, severe cold. But a weak vortex doesn't always mean cold. Sometimes it brings the opposite. In February 2019, Germany basked in record warmth, with temperatures over 20 degrees Celsius, and people enjoying outdoor cafes. Both extremes, deep freeze and false spring, were caused by the same unstable jet stream. The real signature of a weak vortex is volatility, wild swings from one extreme to another. The old idea of a typical German winter is fading. Now it's a season of surprises, with dramatic weather shifts that challenge how we prepare and adapt. The polar vortex is rewriting the rules of winter, and the story isn't over yet. When the polar vortex falters, the impact ripples through daily life in Germany. Transportation is hit first, trains freeze, tracks are buried, and roads become treacherous. Even the best snowplows and salt trucks can't keep up with sudden heavy snow and deep cold. Highways close, drivers are stranded, and the flow of goods across Europe is disrupted. Health risks rise, especially for the elderly and vulnerable. Hypothermia, frostbite, and winter blues all spike. Schools may close, routines are upended, and everyone checks the weather with new urgency. The thermostat goes up, and people scramble to stay warm and stocked up. A weak vortex forces us to adapt fast, reminding us how much we depend on stable weather. It's a powerful lesson in how quickly life can change when the Arctic comes calling. When Arctic air floods Germany, the energy grid faces a massive stress test. Demand for heating soars as millions turn up their thermostats, straining gas, oil, and electricity supplies. At the same time, renewables struggle. Solar panels are covered in snow, and wind turbines may freeze or shut down. The country must rely more on conventional power plants and stored gas, exposing vulnerabilities in the energy system. A cold snap can quickly drain reserves and drive up prices, raising concerns about energy security. Germany's energy transition, away from coal and nuclear, makes these challenges even sharper. The lesson: We need robust storage, a flexible grid, and better planning for extreme winter events. The polar vortex exposes the cracks in our energy armor. Preparing for its surprises is key to a resilient future. The wild swings of a weak polar vortex confuse not just people, but nature itself. Plants that wake up early during a warm spell can be killed by a sudden freeze, hurting crops and gardens. Birds struggle to find food when the ground freezes and ponds ice over, relying on feeders to survive. Hibernating animals like hedgehogs may wake too soon, only to face cold and hunger. Insects can emerge early and die off, disrupting the food chain for birds in spring. These unpredictable shifts weaken trees, harm pollination, and stress entire ecosystems. The timing cues plants and animals rely on are becoming less reliable. The Arctic's wobble shakes up the natural world as much as our own. Nature, too, is learning to cope with a new kind of winter. The polar vortex isn't just a distant curiosity, it's a powerful force shaping life in Germany. When it weakens, it can unleash chaos, paralyzing transport, straining the energy grid, and stressing people and nature. Scientists warn that as the Arctic warms, these disruptions may become more frequent. Understanding the vortex helps us prepare from emergency kits to resilient infrastructure and smarter energy planning. It's about more than weather. It's about resilience in a changing world. Watching the vortex means watching our own vulnerability and strength. The Arctic's spinning top connects us all, reminding us how dynamic and interconnected our climate is. By learning its patterns, we can adapt and thrive, no matter how wild the winter gets. Science like this matters to everyone, every winter.